Hello and welcome back to TechnyFire, your number one destination for everything tech. I am Dakbo Aruwajoye, and today we're chatting with an absolute tech royalty. Imagine building products that touch over 65 million users every day across powerhouse platforms like Paystack, OPay, and Cheaper Cash. Imagine becoming one of Africa's youngest banking CEO at just 28 years old, launching Nigeria's very first multi-currency digital bank. To be honest, that is just the modest way to describe our guest today. After the break, you will get to meet this incredible tech diva. But first, let's go into the newsroom for a quick look at the major updates happening globally.
Nigeria is offering new incentives to global manufacturers to build local smartphone assembly lines aiming to slash retail costs and boost jobs. Nigerian-founded defense startup Terra Industries has secured $34 million from top VCs like 8VC to expand hardware and surveillance manufacturing into Ghana. The UK's FCA warns that AI-generated synthetic data is making financial fraud and cybercrime nearly impossible to distinguish from real transactions. EcoWave Power has raised $4 million to use onshore wave energy as a clean power source, specifically for electricity-hungry AI data centers. The World Economic Forum's top emerging tech list has shifted from software to physical systems, highlighting direct lithium extraction and energy storage. Asian Labs has raised $10 million for parking space-sized pods that let robotaxis park and recharge directly at urban hotspots, cutting wasted empty miles.
Our guest today is a world-class fintech product leader turned cybersecurity champion. Recognized by Vogue as one of the visionary women at the forefront of West Africa's massive tech boom, she's a force to be reckoned with. Beyond becoming a banking CEO at 28, she's the founder of SBK, Security Basics Toolkit, an accomplished author, a passionate maternal health advocate, and the ultimate tech multi-hyphenate. She's Seun Runsewe. Good to have you, Seun.
Thank you for having me. It's really nice to be here.
I introduced you as a diva, and a diva you are, a tech diva, right?
Yes, I am. It's nice to be here.
Let's get to meet you.
Yeah.
Who are you?
My name is Seun Runsewe. I am a tech diva, but I've been building in technology for a little over a decade. I have worked in systems and infrastructure that people have come to rely on. 100 million Africans rely on a daily basis, from financial technology to cybersecurity. However, what I can say that I do now, or who I am now, is I'm a systems thinker, and I care very deeply about building infrastructure that holds people, specifically in cybersecurity and in health today on the African continent.
Okay, because I did a little bit of introduction, right? But just tell the people, where have you worked, your experiences, a little bit, because it's long.
It is, it's a long rap sheet.
We need just wrap it up.
I started out in consulting at one of the big four companies, basically trying to articulate what the future of banking, payments, and financial risk management should look like on the continent of Africa. So I've been doing this for a while. How do we paint a picture of where we should go and then build out the roadmap for that? Then Paystack. I joined as an early team member at Paystack, the payments company that got acquired by Stripe for $200 million. After Paystack, I went on to build a digital bank for one of the traditional banks in Nigeria today. It was the first multi-currency digital bank in the country at the time. And after that, I joined OPay as the director of product. So the OPay that is known, loved, and widely used in Nigeria today, I think is the biggest retail product in the country. I helped to build out the infrastructure for what you now see today as the mighty product that it is in terms of scale. And then shortly after that, I pivoted to cybersecurity. I'd spent so much time building systems that help to move money. However, I realized, how do we build the infrastructure that, from an aggregate standpoint, helps us to lift our security baselines from education to implementation to tools? And so that's where the pivot to cybersecurity started. I then went to study cybersecurity. I worked at Chipper Cash to work on cross-border infrastructure. How do we help to facilitate trade across multiple African countries? And that's where the interest on infrastructure building really cemented for me. And now I'm the founder of SBK. It's a cybersecurity startup that helps, especially from a national standpoint, from a regulatory standpoint, to articulate what systems should look like for us to coordinate cybersecurity at a national level. And beyond that, a product/infrastructure that's very dear to me is connected health systems. Outside of my tech job, I started what is called the mom economy about 10 years ago, out of my desk at Paystack. So I started out selling nursing bras and nursing tanks, just selling to postpartum bodies. So my work was holding African women in very vulnerable windows of their lives, which is the postpartum window. But the question for us as we evolved is, how do we move from that to building the systems that holds them when they need help, when they need answers, right? And so we started our first sort of heritage product is the connected breast pump that helps them to collect data around their postpartum life, their breastfeeding, so that they're better able to get the care that they need and deserve with the right data. So that's me in a nutshell.
You have enough down your sleeves, but let's get to look at something that's germane to. At 28, you became the youngest CEO, a bank CEO in Africa. So let's get to talk about that.
I think I was saying to you offline how one of the biggest gifts that gave me is the boldness to punch above my weight and go at projects that are entirely intimidating. I think that's a gift. It was very clearly something that was way beyond anything I'd ever done in scope, in complexity, in people. But that experience furnished me with those skills, from storytelling to team leadership to risk management, right? That's a muscle I'd been trying to build from my days in consulting. That was the reason why I decided I can solve any problem. I think when you hit a certain point of being able to solve, complex problems, nothing intimidates you at that point, right? And I think that experience gave me that. It also gave me some of the best friends, some of the best people to work with. They're still, actively in my life today. But you see, that theme of I can build or do anything is something that has followed me throughout my career since then. I thoroughly enjoyed that because there's no problem you bring to me as a technical person, right? Because I'm a generalist. There's no problem you would, bubble up that I can't find a way to solve, right? So that's the best thing that experience gave me.
Like a talent to you.
Oh, it is. It's a talent, but it's a muscle as well. You build it as you go along. You build it as you exercise it. It gives you something. It gives you permission to be able to say, I'm going to solve a continent-wide problem. It's possible for a young woman under 30 to solve a continent-wide problem, to set the tone for what, the new wave of thinking in our industry should be, in our continent should be. That was, I think, the highlight of that experience.
So at what point did you move from working in the system to building your own thing?
I think that's the thread that I was just sort of articulating. When you see the gaps in the systems that you're building and you realize, first of all, for the African context, no one's coming here to save us. No one's coming here to solve this problem. Now, you've done the hard work, or you have the experience of sinking your teeth into really complex problems. It's okay to take a stab at solving this gap in terms of infrastructure. For example, in health, right? I started out selling nursing bras to postpartum women in Nigeria. So we had partnerships with hospitals and with pharmacy chains. The biggest pharmacy chains today was carrying our nursing bra lines and all the things that we were doing. But, it's in the doing that the clarity comes, right? And so because I have that experience, I was able to borrow from the infrastructure thinking and the systems building that I've sort of carried from my tech career into other parallels that are so important in our continent today. I think that in the tech industry, the most shiny child or the most shiny pillar is finance. And finance is really cool. There are many problems to solve there. It's such a fundamental problem to solve. There are many other pillars to solve for. There are many other pain points and gaps that are waiting for us to be bold enough to solve for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you do. It does, and you do. So let's talk about SBK.
Yeah.
What problem are you trying to solve, or what have you been solving?
I've had a thoroughly good time building SBK.
And SBK, the full meaning is the...
SBK is Security Basics Kit. So the overarching idea there was, how do we get security to feel doable? And I'll tell you what I mean by that.
Cybersecurity.
Yes, cybersecurity. Now, the thing about cybersecurity is they come in this policy statements and policy documents that are like yay big. And so especially smaller teams have a hard time, number one, translating what is this policy even asking me to do, right? And what actions must I take to be able to solve for them? I'll paint a picture of what's happening today as is, right? And then I can paint a picture of to be and how SBK solves, to help to close the gap between the two. What happens today when a startup or a company wants to pass a security audit or a certification is there are certifications like ISO 27001, right? This is basically to articulate to your regulators or to the government that you have an information security management system, right? Now, there are many positions or there are many policies that this particular, standard asks of you. However, what these companies do is they hire a consultant from typically Kenya, if we're being honest. Hi, Kenya. I know quite a few consultants from out there, right? Who then throw a bunch of templates at you, and they ask somebody who is like an intern or like a non-critical person, a HR person or an intern, just a junior staff, to change or swap out the details in the templates, get the management teams to sign, and then your auditors come and say that, yes, you've passed an audit. However, there's trouble in the land because all the positions that are in those documents that you've got your management team to sign, they're not consistent with what obtains in your tech stack, in your culture, in your business, as it is, as you are operating as a business. That's a problem. That's why we're seeing the ballooning cybersecurity, incidents happen across Africa. I wrote a thesis on this, how information security, education, and a few other sort of modules are the reason why Africa is the most porous continent in the world.
Talk about cybersecurity.
Cybersecurity breaches. We suffer the highest number of cybersecurity breaches compared to any other continent in the world today. So that was what led to SBK, where it's like, how do we help teams make security feel doable for an engineering team, for example, because engineering is another honeypot. Because what's happening is as I said, an analyst just wrote documents and the management team signed, but the engineering team doesn't even know what was written in there. And so the positions that have been taken in those documents are not reflected in the tech stack, right? And another foundational problem is Nigeria has such a fantastic technical ecosystem. I'm a product of that, right? But we grew really fast, and our engineers are not trained for security. They're trained for functionality. They build and ask, does it work? Not, is it safe? There's a difference, right?
Yes.
So how do we close the gap between does it work and do you understand what to check for to be sure that it's safe, right? So there are many moving parts that SBK has. There's incident response. So we're closing the gap between policy and
Is
implementation.
it like a software or something?
Oh, it is a software, right? So there are teams that are using it to educate their teams today. There are teams that are using it to respond to incidents and remit said information to their regulators. There are teams that are using SPK to articulate what their information security management systems look like. And it evolves with them as their businesses grow and change.
Does it come in application form?
Yes, it does. It's a web application.
Okay, it's a web application. Oh, is
Yes,
it?
yes,
So
it
we
is.
could get it on where?
From the website. So
Okay,
with sbk.com.
Cybersecurity sounds abstract, really, and some people don't even know, as they're exposed to threats.
That's correct.
So can you can you tell the people listening how cybersecurity is so special to them?
Cybersecurity affects the systems that you rely on for your health, for your money. I would say it's tied to even our dignity as a nation, right? In the last couple of weeks, we've had cybersecurity incidents that have sort of tried to make a mockery of our system, of our government systems, of our financial systems. And what you don't want, right, is to have trust be eroded, right? Trust is infrastructure. It is. If we get to the point where people are putting their money in Ghana Moscow bags and putting them in Vespas, I'm sure you remember what that looks like with exactly. We're not going to go back there. And trust being eroded is going to get us back there. We don't want that, right?
So we need to buckle up.
We absolutely do. And I think it's at this point I have to highlight, for example, 2 years ago, the president wrote an act for this. There's policy for this, right? He invited about 14 sectors, if I'm correct.
Is it the NDPA?
No, the CNII Act,
Okay.
where he talked about critical national information infrastructure.
Yes.
And said all the sectors that he articulated in this act, from finance to petroleum to agriculture to transportation, to come up with something called a critical national information infrastructure protection plan, right? Now, a protection plan means what processes are we going to follow to, from an aggregate standpoint, raise the baseline for what cybersecurity practices looks like, right? Because all these things are actually critical national information for our country, right? They preserve our sovereignty, they preserve our dignity as a nation. And so it's very tightly woven with who we are as a people. It's not this far-flung technical term that's just for the ethical kids like me.
We'll talk more about what you're doing presently, but quickly, let me just. The last time I saw you at the Ministerial Advisory Council of Cybersecurity. Can you reel out a few of the advice? Can I say a few of suggestions to give to the federal government now, if you're meant to find yourself in that committee?
I think the point that I'd even made to you when I spoke to you on the day, I'm highly impressed with the position that the federal government has taken. From that CNI Act to the Honourable Minister's move to say, I want to commission a national committee for coordinating what cybersecurity looks like across the nation, that's impressive, right? That stands heads and toes above the position of many other African countries today, whether for runners there, right? The policy exists. Now, in terms of suggestions, and they've taken this on, and this set of suggestions is snowballing as far as I know. Education is important, as I mentioned before. You need tools that can help to close that gap between what the president has said to all the policies, all the global standards, to implementation. How do we make it so that, like an orchestra, we can have a look into what all the moving parts of the economy is doing when it comes to strengthening our cybersecurity stances, right? So what kind of tools are we putting in their hands? What kind of education are we giving to them? Are we facilitating what I call a FaceTime video instead of one-time snapshots? So how cybersecurity governance happens today is the regulators will come, say, once a quarter and take a snapshot, essentially. And everybody, would get dressed because, the principal's coming, right? So, so you get dressed, you wear your nicest clothes.
You look pretty.
You look really pretty. Yeah. And then he comes, he takes his photo, and your wig is off the next day, right? What that means is we don't see what is happening in between those audits, and so we're constantly sort of reactive to how incidents happen.
Like periodical
fantastic
reactions.
Yes, but it needs to move to like a bi-directional conversation where I can see your cybersecurity stance based on the framework that we have sort of authored from our understanding of, outside of what the global standards are saying, what is the trend for how cybersecurity incidents happen today, so that it's local context aware. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So exactly. We need to buckle up. You're saying that
we need to buckle up, but we are buckling up, and we're doing amazing. Actually, we're doing amazing.
But we should do more.
I would say give it a few weeks, because from that meeting and the way things are going to snowball in cybersecurity, I'm very excited to see what comes out of the federal government in the next couple of weeks.
Amazing. Let's talk about you now because of time. Let's talk about Biamo. From cybersecurity to health. What happened?
I told you I have a few white hairs.
Yeah, I know. I have things to show for it, like Biamo. So tell me about Biamo.
Biamo started out as my own personal intervention. Again, as I'd mentioned to you, if I find a gap somewhere, I'm going to want to close it. Yes. So I started out selling nursing bras and nursing tanks because I didn't see that in the market as we have it today, and I wanted to do something about that. So my family helped me to set up a nursing bra business. So it was nursing bras, nursing tanks, and a few accessories that support the postpartum experience. That was our first, goal. It started out of my desk at Paystack about 9 years ago, right? And I've been selling to women's bodies for all these years. However, there's something I learned. I think that if you're able to build systems that can hold women in such vulnerable spaces, in such vulnerable windows of their lives, that's an important problem to solve. African women are the most underserved, under-researched market in the health space today. And so our first heritage was, let's build systems that would serve and support the African woman across the different sort of vulnerable windows in her life, from postpartum to perimenopause to menopause. And so our first device was the connected breast pump. What this device can do is to send commands and collect data on the postpartum experience, specifically on breastfeeding, right?
That's medical tech, right?
Yes, that is medical tech. I remember my engineer giving me a call when he realized that I had written all the Bluetooth scripts myself. And he called me to say, "Excuse me, I think you're crazy."
That's a compliment.
It's a compliment. But that's just where we started from. how do we then expand, if we have this infrastructure for health tech, how do we then expand it to serve the African body, right? Medicine, health altogether is an opportunity for system thinking, right? How do we collect the right kind of data so that health can be managed proactively?
As we round up, you're recognized by Vogue as one of the women at the forefront of revolutionizing Africa when it comes to tech. How did you feel?
How did I feel? I felt humbled. I think in the end I'm just a girl who wants to build but also chill. I'm just a girl, but I'm proud that, you know, again, Nigeria, women from Nigeria, young women from Nigeria can sort of set the tone for what our future looks like. That I carry that with a sense of responsibility, right? I care very deeply for I hope that my light and my work and my brilliance and my beauty and everything about me, one, points people to God. But more importantly, it invites them into walking in their own brilliance and building amazing things for our continent as well.
I wish we could have more time to discuss. So I need to keep the light shining. Okay?
Thank you.
More. I would love to give you this more power to your elbows. Thank you so much.
Really lovely to be here.
What a wonderful and insightful conversation. Seun is truly paving the way for a whole new generation of tech talent, especially for young women looking to break boundaries in the tech industry. And that's our package for this episode. I am Dakbo Aru Ajoy. See you next time on TechnyFire.